temperature was 92. Once again, at 5 p.m., Muskegon was 85 degrees.
Good evening, everyone. The Muskegon City Commission meeting for August 10th, 2021. Before we begin the proceedings, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to join us in prayer. And I believe that we have Pastor Wally Reams here tonight from Central Assembly of God, who will be leading us in prayer. And that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, again, for anyone who wants to join us. Pastor?
Heavenly Father, we come to you here this afternoon, and we seek your guidance, we seek your counsel, we seek your grace. We recognize, Lord, that you put us here upon earth not to be self-absorbed, but to be serving you first of all and then one another. We pray, Lord, the decisions that are made here tonight, the thoughts and the conversations that are had will be done in such a manner and way that would cause for us to be a better community, one that demonstrates care and love and concern for one another, one that looks out for each other's interests before our own. I pray, God, that you would give wisdom and in the differing opinions sometimes that we have, that in the midst of looking at things differently, we can find a way to have unity. We thank you, Lord, that you will find a way to move upon the hearts of this community, and that we would act together in such a manner and way that we would extinguish the violence that sometimes takes over, and that we would be able to celebrate the good things that you are doing. We pray that out of this kind of peaceful community that we envision, that, Lord, there will be things that will be talked about where people be proud to be from this community. And we thank you for Muskegon. We thank you for these leaders. We thank you for the people of Muskegon. And we pray blessings upon us all as we seek to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Gallren?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Here.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Here.
Commissioner German?
Here.
Commissioner Specifica?
Here.
Commissioner Emery?
Here.
Thank you. This brings us to honors and awards. And at this time, we have a presentation of our accreditation for public safety.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City officials, audience, and any of your citizens that may be watching the proceedings this evening. My name is Robert Stevenson. I'm the Executive Director with the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. I come here representing our association and also the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. We're here tonight to award Certificate of Accreditation to the Muskegon Police Department. One of the things that I get to do as executive director is travel around the state, and I see all types of police departments involved in all different areas. And your police department has undertaken voluntarily a significant event and work to achieve this accreditation certificate that we're going to award here tonight. To put this a little bit into perspective, in the state of Michigan, there are on any given day about 580 something police agencies. Of those 500 and something police agencies in the state of Michigan, your department was the 32nd police department to attain accreditation. It's a significant achievement that hopefully you're as proud of them as I am to be able to represent and come here on for our association. As I said, it's voluntary. It's a lot of work. We don't give this out. I say when we come to award this, you have to earn this. And it's a lot of work. And I'm going to introduce Neil Rosso, who is the program director for our accreditation, to enlighten you as to all the work that your department went through to attain this. Neil?
Mayor and Commission, it's an honor to be here. Bob and I talk about this a lot. We were both police officers for a long time, but One of the most enjoyable things we get to do is come to municipalities and tell them that they have a very, very good police department. You're all somewhat familiar with accreditation. Your kids go to accredited schools. Hopefully you went to an accredited college. And hopefully if you get hurt, you go to an accredited hospital. It's very similar with Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation. Michigan Chiefs has no control over the agencies, but we decided to go down this path to create the accreditation program. So while we have some connection with the departments, we don't have direct connection. So we have 108 standards that were set by the commission. The standards kind of lie by themselves, and they had their existing written directives, policies, and procedures. And the work comes from weaving those two together, getting the policies to match the standards. So they write the directives to meet the standards, and then create these things that are a little bit abstract called proofs that can show to outside assessors that are trained by the commission to show them that they're following the written directive that follows the standard. And to say it's a lot of work kind of minimizes what they had to do here. I've known the director for a long time. He's very active on our MACP training committee and also on the FBI National Academy Associates. So it did not surprise me when he decided to lead his agency down this adventure. So again, it's a privilege to be here. We'll be back in 3 years. It's not an ollie oxen free, you get to keep it. So they'll have to do a lot of work between now and then. I always say the original accreditation is kind of a promise, and the reaccreditation is a promise kept. So again, congratulations to your city for the police department you have. And with that, I'll introduce MACP President Ron Wiles.
Well, good evening, and I am honored to be here. My name is Ron Wiles. I am the Chief of Police for Grambling Township Police Department down in Genesee County and the President of the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. You should be very proud of your police department. Accreditation is a significant professional accomplishment and is not something that every police department can do. As you heard, there's 580 police departments across the state of Michigan, and 32nd police department to successfully complete this program is something to be proud about. It'll make your police department better, and they'll be better to serve the community that they serve. So with that, Director Lewis, I'd like to present you this accreditation award. To all who see the certificate know that the Muskegon Police Department voluntarily complied with the standards established by the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, deemed essential for the delivery of professional police services and protection of their community, hereby awarded the certificate of accreditation, effective on this first day of March in the year of 2021 for a term of 3 years. Director, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Come on, Dave. Get on the way. I can have him send them to you guys. Please do. Yeah, might be better anyway. Send get this Dave's picture. I'll put them on Facebook or something.
And Chief, to all you and the staff, congratulations on this great accomplishment once again.
Thank you.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to say a few things.
Well, if you must.
I must.
Yeah, you know him well.
Well, yesterday I couldn't hardly talk, but I'm getting my voice back. Honestly, this was quite a task for us, but I'll tell you, it couldn't come at a better time because the leadership for law enforcement in Michigan is spot on. We have been tasked by our community, and you heard over the last 3 or 4 years when the 8, couldn't wait, came out and said, you need to do this, you need to do that. We were already doing these things because the state of Michigan was listening to the citizens, and these were coming down the pike. Sometimes not fast enough, but we knew we were rewriting our policies. our procedures. We were moving forward with the electronic equipment needed to do so, and then we started the accreditation process. Myself and Captain Lord, we said this will be a pretty simple process, we'll do it. After about 6 months, we said we're not doing it. So now we got with Administrative Lieutenant Scott Zanaba, who led the way, behind the scenes, in the field, and got this done. And so all I got to say is this: the commission, the mayor, and our citizens supported it, and I thank you, because we're much better because you supported us and allowed us to do it. We kept you up with what was going on, and today you see that we finished it. Next, the MACP, Neil, Bob, and our president, they're behind the scenes. Actually, they're out front, and they're leading the state to get all our departments standardized, like you said. So when you come to Muskegon or Grand Blanc Township, you'll expect a police service, and it will be at that level. It's not all over the place. That's what it means to the citizens. And there's a lot of things in our policy procedures that we have to follow. That's what makes us a better department. And so last but not least, we have a big agenda tonight, is Lieutenant Zonabelt, Captain Lord, Captain Bride, our 2 officers in the neighborhood. These are the people that did the work. And I want to thank them especially, because without that staff doing this, we would have probably been 580 out of 580. Instead, we're 32 out of 580. So on that note, I thank everyone, because tonight we achieved it. Thank you.
We will continue to do our best for the sake of our neighbors, day in and day out. Thank you, gentlemen. Safe travels. And next, Mr. Alexander.
Mayor, commissioners, staff, Muskegon citizens, Dave Alexander, Business Development Manager here with the city. Let me introduce to you Craig Person of Blue House Investor. Those of us who have been here a number of years or our entire life seem to lose track of the transformation that we are in and the potential that is Muskegon. And sometimes it takes an IT guy from Silicon Valley in California to remind us what we have here in the city of Muskegon, and in particular, McLaughlin neighborhood. Greg?
Thank you, Dave, and congratulations to the police force for that accreditation in Muskegon. That's wonderful news, and everyone should be very proud of them for doing that hard work. I have to admit that I'm not good at speaking in public. It has been a long time since I've done it, and I don't keep to 5 minutes when I normally do talk, so I'm going to do my best to read from a prepared speech or a statement. So I wanted to start off with hello everybody and give you a short introduction. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Craig Person. I'm 57 years of age in November of this year, and it's never too late to make a change. And I made it late in life and moved from Silicon Valley to Muskegon. So I'm a native Californian who migrated from Silicon Valley. I'm also, if you all don't know where Silicon Valley is, it's in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is a tech-heavy economy, and I moved from there to Muskegon. With no friends here or no family, just, excuse me while I read this a little closer, to try my hand at starting something new and exciting here in Muskegon. And I really, really did want to make a change. California is really a different place. And Muskegon really, when I got here in 2014, really captured me and made me buckle down and work hard to accomplish a few things. So my American dream was to own residential property and find ways to improve the community, and somewhere I could make a difference. The price of real estate in California is astronomical, so Muskegon made just good sense. So I moved here in 2014 and I haven't looked back. I'm also an out loud and proud member of the LGBTQ community. So I do fly the flag over my business and support and celebrate diversity and inclusiveness of everyone in the community, and it's been received very well. I helped to organize Muskegon's first annual indoor LGBT Pride Picnic social event, which included Goodwill, Rake's Beer Project, Wonderland Distillery, and Blue House Manor Apartments. We all worked together, along with folks and businesses who donated resources to make a really family-friendly event be fun. The turnout was amazing, and everyone of all walks of life were welcome to take part. Rakes donated part of their proceeds to the Human Rights Campaign, and it's also profitable and good to celebrate diversity. And that's what Rakes and everybody else showed us during that event. Next year is going to be a lot of fun. Please come. I'm also a member of the African American community and a minority business owner. So I realize that access to capital, investment, network, and education are key in supporting us as a group. I'm also inspired by young leaders in Muskegon like James Coffey, who is an inspirational speaker, or Lotus Black, whose videography helped me produce my first videos. Some of you may have seen them. I have one called Muskegon, Rebirth of the City by the Lake, and it really outlines what's going on downtown with all the development. I got close and personal with all the activity that's happening down there. And those folks helped me produce that video. I like collaborating with folks. So I'm also inspired by Cindy Larson, and because of her, I'm now a proud member of the Muskegon Lakeshore Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you also Mayor Gowan, Vice Mayor Hood, and Commissioner German for attending my first official open house at Blue House Manor Apartments, Frank Peterson, and all of you in the commission who worked tirelessly to make Muskegon a better place. I'm inspired by all of you. You inspire me to find more about this wonderful city and share it with others. And those of you who've given me that support in that endeavor, I personally thank each and every one of you. All of my life savings went into 1209 and 1211 Pine Street, which is Blue House Manor Apartments, 167 and 169 Iona, which is my address and neighboring lot, 190 and 186 Isabella, which are single-family homes in a duplex. All of these properties are connected and adjacent to each other. So I have a big impact on the block. And in the McLaughlin neighborhood, where I spend my dollars, pay my taxes, choose to live, and work every day, I do work with police, confront the issues I see when I see them, and encourage others in the community to find new ways to contribute to making this community a safe and happy place for everybody to live. I recently produced a video, McLaughlin, Rebuilding Muskegon, and I'm just going to take a second out and say that if you watch that video, I started in the McLaughlin Community Park, and I have to tell you, the folks volunteer their time. Churches will go in there and hold pitch camp and do great things. Many of you have probably attended some of it. It's a great place and it's a great neighborhood. So, and this video showcases how good investors can be part of the solution in McLaughlin. You can find that on the top of my Facebook page or search for it on YouTube. Just look for Craig Person, Muskegon, you'll find me. I'm everywhere on the net. To wrap everything up, and lastly, I'd like to say that I belong to a growing group of people I call eternal optimists with no political aspirations. So I'm not running for office. I don't want to do that. That's not my lane. I just want to help my community thrive and run successful business that Muskegon can be very proud of. I believe in progress, working closely with others, leadership through example. If I can't build a coalition, which I used to be good at, but I'm learning how to do it again, I try to lead by example. So in the McLaughlin neighborhood, when I moved in 2014, I honestly couldn't get other landlords to do the kind of upgrades that I was envisioning. So I did them and set the tone for what's coming tomorrow. And I was way ahead of the pack when it came to that. To wrap up things, I did come with something for the City Commission to consider. I would like the opportunity as a minority business owner who lives and works in McLaughlin to acquire the lot next to Blue House Manor and build one of the first new houses or multifams, if possible, in the McLaughlin neighborhood on the Pine Street corridor. I would like that opportunity. I care about that neighborhood. I live in that neighborhood. I know the city has given the big developers some incentives. If I could access some of those incentives, well, it's good for the city, it's great for McLaughlin, and it gives a minority business owner an opportunity to grow and participate in the Muskegon changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. And I'm so gratified that you had your home with us. And I always look forward to days I run into you so that I can see that infectious smile.
Thank you. Thank you. I invite you all to come by and visit. I do have an apartment free if anybody wants to see what I've done. So you can always contact me, and I always am free for coffee. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioners, the story that you have on your desk will be put on the city website tomorrow. It'll be shared socially in our social media channels and sent out to regional media. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to public comment on any agenda item. At this time, members of the public are welcome to come forward to speak on any one of the items that are on the agenda at this point. We just ask that you give your name, your address, and you're given 3 minutes to make comment. We do not dialogue or debate at this time. However, your comments on these agenda items would inform our discussion should any of these come to that. Any members of the public that would like to speak to any of the agenda items at this time?
Big surprise. Michael Howell is 903 Turner Avenue, Muskegon, Michigan. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Manager. I wanted to speak on the fire trucks.
Okay.
First off, I encourage you, just from the bottom of my heart, to please continue upgrading our equipment. You all, at one time, swore an oath to the Constitution. As far as I'm concerned, part of that Constitution is protecting of its citizens, and that's your job. That's why I've always backed our fire department. I back our police department. Let's keep them up to gear, up to speed, and continue to protect our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any other members of the public that would speak on an agenda item at this time?
Hello, my name is Ratan, last name is Khatri, and for the last couple of years my address has been at 1167 Peck as my office, and soon after I sell my residence in Grand Haven, it's also going to be my local residence when I'm in town. So I'm about to become a local citizen of Muskegon, and I just have a couple things to say. Number one, I'm so happy and pleased with all of the improvements and everything that I've been seeing around town. It's just amazing and fabulous. And regarding the agenda item, I would like to nominate Mr. Craig Person and have him make you make him an unofficial ambassador for Muskegon. He has been doing some amazing stuff to promote Muskegon and the neighborhoods. And if you got a chance to see his videos, they're just really amazing. And the highlight that they give for Muskegon, it's just, you know, the Riviera of the Midwest, as it used to be called, in one of his videos. So I'd like to nominate him for ambassador. But I want to just thank all of you for everything that's been happening to the local area. Peck Street's been under construction, and new water lines, new sewer lines, everything. It's just amazing, and I'm grateful, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Can I believe you had another individual? Please.
My name is Scott Sitzer. I live in Wolf Lake area, 1709 Chatterton Road. The pedicab ordinance that's up for the agenda is what I wanted to speak on. My pedal pub business that I intend to operate would be operating on Western Avenue throughout the city of Muskegon. There was one thing I wanted to get clarification on within the ordinance regarding the. In reading the ordinance, I saw in the definition here, it mentions pedicab means a multi-wheeled passenger vehicle that is moved by human power, that is pulled, pushed, or otherwise propelled by a person, which is used in the movement of passengers on public right-of-way, and shall include but not be limited to, and it lists off multiple different variations, and then a pedal pub, and any other push cart or rickshaw type vehicle or non-motorized passenger vehicle. So with that being said there, I just wanted to clarify that the need for a motor on these types of vehicles, and if I could possibly get clarification on that from the city attorney, John Schreier, or
He will be available and at your service after the meeting.
okay, yep, thank you very much.
With Mr. Lewis.
You said with Mr. Lewis? Okay.
Chief Lewis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Go right ahead, Jack.
Hello, my name is Jack Page, 1853 Cherry Street. I want to thank the commission. Last night's work session was really spirited with discussion on the ARP info program. It sold me a lot more on the program, knowing that a lot of those dollars would continuously flow back into the program and keep perpetuating itself. I still am an advocate of breaking off a little bit of that funding to fund our first-time home buyer program that's already in existence. That's going to expand the scope outside of just these units that we're going to be building to allow our citizens to try to access any available properties that are for sale. So just wanted to let you guys know, I think that this is the spot that it should be included in. You know, this is where we're spending our ARP dollars, so if we're going to make any amendments on those things, I think this is the time it should be included in such. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on any agenda item?
Mayor and Council, my name is Jim Clark, 1553 Glen. My subject is not on the agenda. May I speak? It is public safety.
This is agenda item only at this time.
Okay.
So unfortunately, you would have to wait for us to wade through the remainder of the business.
Oh, no problem. I will wait.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to make comment on an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. Commissioners, you have received and have had an opportunity to review the consent agenda as presented. Are there any items you wish to have removed for further discussion? Commissioner Ramsey, I see that red pen went right up.
Yes, I would like to have items B, D, F, and G removed for further discussion.
Okay. And to clarify, for my hard of hearing, this is item B, item D, item F, and G. Commissioner German?
Item H.
Item H. Any others, Commissioner? Commissioner?
Seeing no others, I move we approve the consent agenda minus items B, D, F, G, H.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Renzo-Masaminga, supported by the Vice Mayor, to accept the consent agenda as presented minus item B, D, F, G, and H. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gallron,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzo-Masaminga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item D, Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes. Let me find it on my agenda so I could read the correct motion. Please excuse me. So the recommended motion is to approve the request by Mr. Hansen to fly the Christian flag the week of the National Day of Prayer, which is the first week of May for 2022, but I would like to make the motion to deny the request by Mr. Hansen to fly the Christian flag the week of the National Day of Prayer, the first week of May 2022.
We'll proceed to discussion. Support.
Been moved by Commissioner Ramsey, seconded by Commissioner Johnson, to deny the request to fly the Christian flag the week of the National Day of Prayer, the first week of May 2022. Commissioner Ramsey?
Yeah, before I start, I actually want to toss the ball over to council to see if, and that's why I want to have this discussion before I launch into anything else. Is it okay for us to do this?
The conversation that we've been having with staff is that if the city commission decides to open the door of allowing religious symbols on your flags, you will open it up to any and all religious symbols. And so it will not simply be a Christian flag, it will be any other religious flag that some group would ask to be posted. And within that construct, then acceptable. It clearly would not be acceptable to do just a Christian flag and give no others.
Commissioner?
So we have allowed other flags to fly.
Non-religious.
Okay, so
To my understanding, my recollection.
so the distinction would be just about the religion.
Commissioner German?
All or nothing.
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes, and this is directed for legal counsel also. And I understand allowing one opens the door for other religions. Also, constitutional wise, U.S. Constitution, it talks about, the right for, religion and freedom of religion and all that kind of stuff. So in that case, wouldn't we, if the commission decided to approve that basically also approves that right under the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, right?
Yeah, there's both the right of the separation of powers, or separation of church and state.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the prohibition on the establishment. And clearly, if we were to pick one religious group only, flies in the face of the prohibition on establishment of a religion.
Vice Mayor?
So that would open it up to any religion
Yes.
or
a
institution
non-religious,
Yeah.
or an anti-religion.
That's okay.
So we currently have no policies about how we regarding
Not that
how
I'm
we
aware.
approve flags to fly.
Currently, our policy states that we take the request to City Commission.
So all we have is the past action of the City Commission, which I don't think all of us know every time it's been passed, but it's happened a number of times, but mostly for, I don't know. But isn't it the Scandinavian flag or the Norwegian flag that
The
is
Irish flag.
most common one?
Social groups, really. Yeah. Community groups, social groups.
John, clarify, this is essentially the same issue with the way we celebrate some Christmas things at Heckley Park, too, right? So similar things. We have some Christian displays, and we make it available if other religions or non-religions want to make a similar display, we would allow them to do so.
Absolutely.
So another question for legal counsel, and just my opinion, not allowing the freedom of speech or freedom of expression, even if the commission did approve this, kind of seem like, well, if you do one, I know others will be willing to promote or want to see their Christian faith or their faith or whatever religion out there. I just think it's religion, to me, my opinion, has always been a very controversial topic. A lot of times they tell you don't talk about religion and politics at work. But I think, everyone has the right to express, believe what they believe in. If allowing this, I think it would give that freedom of expression or one's belief. So, kind of on the border of it. I'm not against anyone promoting their freedom of expression or freedom of speech or anything like that. But, you don't want a religious war or my religion is better than the next or my belief is this. So I think that's why it's good to have some discussion, and we want to make a good sound decision on how we approach this.
And outside of the plague issue and perhaps being perceived that we're promoting one denomination, sect, group over another, which is always hard. And, there's prayerful people in many of the world religions, but this doesn't preclude anyone with their expression of prayer or faith. We've certainly welcomed people into our public parks, such as Hackley, for prayer services, prayer days, and the like. So that is always, a very public option during that National Week of Prayer. Commissioner Ramsey?
Thank you, Mayor. I would actually like to piggyback on what Commissioner German said. Is a very close to the heart topic for many people. And if we as a city are seen to favor one over the other, it could cause issue. And we are here to serve every person that lives within our community without question. That is my job and all of yours as well. We're very lucky to have that position, this privilege. And I think that as we move forward, it's also very important that if we are to endorse one religion, which is what that would look like according to the emails that we received, that could be offensive to others. And I think that in order to best not enter into a cultural war about religion that comes across this bench and leaves everyone bloody, that we step away from it. Is Mr. Hansen, I believe his last name, is he in the, Mr. Hansen? Hi, Michael Ramsey, Commissioner Ward 3. I read your emails, both of them. No, it's okay. And so I just wanted to invite you to maybe talk with me after, and we can have some conversations about some great ideas to partner with other organizations in town to celebrate a week of prayer and of creating a space of understanding and to increase the peace, to kind of bite off of someone else's words, because I think that in this current climate, these events are super important and necessary to bring our community closer together. But I didn't want you to have, I wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to approach me after this was over so that we could have a conversation. So in going back to the discussion at hand, I would like to just support what Commissioner German said and just say that I think that this is a slippery slope. And if we make a wrong move, we have the potential to hurt a lot of people indirectly and by accident.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with my fellow commissioners. The sentence has been expressed. We as a government body should not be taking these steps to favor or disfavor an individual particular religion. In this case, the National Week of Prayer is one that is celebrated and participated by people from many walks of life and many different faiths. And I think it would be inappropriate to in an attempt to recognize or embrace that week by only recognizing one faith. It almost runs contrary to the impetus of that activity of the National Prayer Day of Prayer and the Week of Prayer. So I would be disinclined to allowing a religious flag to be flown for that week. That doesn't preclude us as a commission or as the mayor passing a resolution or issuing a proclamation recognizing
Absolutely.
the Day of Prayer or the Week of Prayer, as many levels of government, including our president, has done in the past. So that would be prudent, in my opinion. But putting up a particular religious flag, not so much.
And there again, reinforcing the fact that there's public space available for that expression and for that celebration, and for many of us, a needed part of our lives, asking for blessing, asking for grace. Anything else, commissioners?
Yeah, I just like to say I agree with Commissioner Johnson and
You can just call me Michael. It's okay.
Commissioner Michael. Is that I agree. I wouldn't want to highlight any particular religion, and I wouldn't want to open the floodgates up either, because people can definitely get creative and certain religions or non-religions, however you want to look at it, we would have to be privy to flying their flag too if they wanted. So I agree with the commissioners. I wouldn't go for that either.
Yes, are we allowed to?
We're not going to.
Oh, okay. You just can't engage. Okay. Well, if I remember correctly, reading Mr. Hanson's email, I think in there I saw that he kind of compared flying a Christian flag here at the city of Muskegon with the comparisons of the flag for Pride Day. Would that be correct, sir? Could he answer that? Oh, we can't. Okay. And I do know we had a vote on that, and there was some controversy there also. So we don't want to be hypocritical about things when we look at groups or religions. But this one here, I think, really kind of, would really probably cause a lot of controversy if we allowed this particular topic to go forward.
No, I agree with everything that's been said. Thank you.
Anything additional?
I just wanted to speak to the policy itself of any request for flags just automatically coming to the commission. When the requester is a non-resident and does not have an interest in the city, we should perhaps revisit that the request doesn't automatically come to the commission. Like, I would feel like it just, I don't know, it doesn't quite sit well with me that someone that doesn't live here or have an interest in the city can have a request that automatically comes to us, and we have to spend time and attention and staff resources on use of our city property. So I don't know if that's something we want to discuss at all right now, or if staff wants to chew on. You would like some guidance right now, or you want to chew on that?
I'll work on that.
You'll work on that. Okay. And get some clarity on when these things may or may not come.
Actually, and I was thinking about going there myself, because this certainly brings it up. And again, it's not to diminish anyone.
Not at all.
Whatsoever. But there are nuances, especially when your groups aren't all the same, and the implication isn't all the same. And not a knock on religion. I'm a cradle Catholic. But I think in this instance, the invitation is there for use of our other public spaces to celebrate prayerfulness and togetherness. But an implication of an endorsement on a flagpole for, organized religion. We have a history here of being of treading very lightly with that in the States.
And we've made our park, Hackley Park, available for day of prayer, week of prayer activities in the past. So, we are welcoming
different
of people celebrating and embracing their faith and practicing their faith.
Rosaries, Right to Life marches, so on and so forth. So, it is there for the use and the celebration of the public. Anything additional? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Okay, just to be
To
clear
deny
on
the
that.
request to fly the flag.
Excuse me?
The motion is to deny the request to fly the flag.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gowron?
Yes.
Motion passes.
That brings us to item D, Commissioner Ramsey.
Purchase request for 2 fire apparatuses. This is an exciting one, eh?
It is.
I am going to, again, forgive me, scroll back up so I can hit the right thing. Okay. I motion to approve staff to enter into a 2 apparatus purchase agreement with Halt Fire of Wixom, Michigan.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Emery, to approve staff to enter into a 2 apparatus purchase agreement with Halt Fire of Wixom, Michigan. I guess you get to speak on this, Deputy Director.
And Deputy Director Paulson, I am not trying to put you on the spot. I just think that this is great news, and I want to make sure that we're sharing it with as many people as we can.
Thank you. As we talked here, we discussed at the work session, this 2 truck purchase will replace 2 heavily used fire apparatuses in our department. Also give it ability with the aerial apparatus will go from 75 feet to 100 feet. There's only one other truck in Muskegon County that can handle that. So with all the new construction and all the new building in Muskegon, this is going to be an essential piece of equipment. With the pumper purchase, right now we have 2 pumpers that are over 100,000 miles on them. And for, emergency vehicle, that's a lot of miles. So this will replace, one of those engines and give us an opportunity with this particular engine to haul a little bit more of equipment, because we're going to actually phase out a rescue truck, and then that equipment will be on the engine as well. So, kind of a 2-tier, it's called a heavy rescue pumper. So, rescue equipment and fire. So and it's going to be built for it instead of us trying to jam stuff in there. Any questions?
Any additional questions? It was a great presentation. I'm excited to see this new equipment coming in for the sake of the service and the sake of service to the community.
Yes, and we worked on this committee. We had a committee of 5 firefighters. And we've been working since the committee formed about in December. We looked at 5 manufacturers and came up with manufacturer peers that came in with the best package that we were looking for our city and for what the fire department needed. And really, as an administrator, I kind of let the guys look at the equipment and pick what they wanted, and wasn't going to just let them have what. But it was a good pick. They did a great job, and we spent a lot of time looking at this equipment and these manufacturers to make sure that this was going to be the best thing for us, and it was going to. These are 20-year apparatus, 20-year warranties on these things. So we're really excited that we were able to get this kind of deal. So.
Absolutely. Anything additional for the Deputy Director, Commissioner Emery, and then Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, does the new truck, it has new equipment on it? Is our people going to be trained?
Oh yeah, the part of the purchase agreement is they will send factory reps here. We actually will send 3 people over to the factory, make sure the truck is what we want. We make sure that some equipment's placed where we want. They'll bring the truck here, deliver it, do a training presentation. They'll be here as long as we need them. So if we want them here for a week, they'll be here for a week. So loose equipment, we didn't purchase loose equipment with this. We didn't want to obscure the truck price with loose equipment price because there is a difference. We wanted to let the commission know that we need this truck, but we're going to probably come back and ask for equipment later. But we wanted to get the truck in hand, get this purchased, and because we were kind of beating some price increases, rate increases, they have a metal rate increase, so we were trying to avoid those. And one was going to be a substantial, it was like over $100,000 that would have been tacked onto the price of that aerial truck. So it was perfect timing to get it when we did, and when we are right now. So we'll come back and we figure out we're going to be taking equipment off our old aerial, and then we'll determine what we need for the new one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Paulson.
Yes.
I'm excited that we're going to be getting a new ladder and engine on a ladder that reaches the highest building in our city, and will be put to good work. So appreciate your efforts as well as efforts of our firefighters on the apparatus committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one.
Yes.
I actually have one. And I should have asked you this sooner, but I had the opportunity to go to the parade in North Muskegon this last week, and the Dalton Township fire truck was noticeably louder and brighter to the point of almost obnoxious as it came through there. And my question is, you probably know which truck I'm talking about. It's a brand new truck.
Yes,
it's
a dark.
Please tell me ours won't quite be that loud and bright as it's coming down the street, because it was noticeably different than all the other trucks that came up and down that street. I mean, to the point where I almost got up and walked away from the parade. It was so loud.
No, actually, we spec'd out the same siren package that we have in our trucks now. So there's nothing different, nothing louder or less loud. So we meet the minimum standards for what requirements are.
I don't want to sound like a noise complainer, but it was noticeably louder than the other ones.
Well, then, just to note, Deputy Director Paulson, if you need someone to ride on said truck to make it as loud as the Dalton truck, I am free and I'm volunteering to show up and just holler at the top of my lungs.
Sure, we'll take you up on that.
Except when they're leaving the west side station and going down Palmer to the Hume home.
So we should
go right ahead.
So we should expect another request forthcoming, though, with regard to the water rescue craft.
Yes, we do have a committee formed. We're just starting to kind of look at what's out there. We're looking at all the different venues or different avenues, I should say, of equipment. We had an airboat in the past. We're still looking at airboats, but there's different models and different configurations of the airboats. We're also looking at a device that uses a snowmobile and kind of fits into a device that can actually go in the water. And then it's like a twofer, so you can pull that out and use the snowmobile like on trails. So those just some of the things we looked at. So yeah, we have a lot of work yet to do on that. We're trying to emphasize to get these trucks, get these spec'd out, get them to commission so we can get these purchased, and then we'll be working on those.
Excellent. So we'll see the new ladder truck mid-September-ish, or by end of September will arrive here.
They're saying 45 to 50 days. So it's built, it's ready to go. We got to tweak it for what we need. It's really not too far out.
Okay. And the engine is
The engine's looking at 12 to 14 months.
Okay.
So, and it's a build to order. Build it. It's basically there's a base build, and then we kind of take off what we want. So.
Okay.
Makes it easy.
Very good.
We looked at
Can't wait to see 'em.
with Pierce. They had some already built ones, some stock models. Just didn't have the fit for us what we needed. We were getting equipment we didn't need, and stuff that we wanted we couldn't get. The next best option was to do pricing the same price.
Yeah, locking in some cost savings for us. Appreciate it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, commissioners? Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Sipiga?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gallren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item F, Commissioner Ramsey.
Not again. Okay. And Madam Clerk, I just realized that you're pulling them up on the screen in front of me directly.
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry.
As
I just missed, yes. Here, there you go.
okay,
You wanna
I
come
would
down?
like to make a motion to approve the policy establishing rules and regulations related to sanitation. I don't expect anyone to speak on this. I just really wanted to highlight that this.
Need a motion. It has been moved by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Enzema to approve the policy establishing rules and regulations related to sanitation.
Can I be excited now?
Yes, you can.
So I just really want to say that this policy update is a direct effect of community neighborhood engagement and conversations. Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner German, and myself were at a community neighborhood meeting in McLaughlin, and we heard many people speak about the issues around sanitation and enforcement and hoppers, which means garbage can. It's a word I learned last night as we had some robust discussion about this, and I even made a joke about how we could get some volunteers, and I got an email today from that same McLaughlin resident volunteering to help us with anything we needed. So I just wanted to say thank you to Frank and Leanne and staff for listening to what my colleagues and I came back and said and putting it into action, because this is a great way to prove that we do listen and we do care and we do want to help you address the issues that you're having in your neighborhood, whether they reach any side of our city or not. If it affects you, it affects us, and we want to show up for you. So thank you guys for that, and Frank, thank you and the team.
Very good. Anything additionally, commissioners? Commissioner Johnson?
Thanks, sir.
Be more definitive.
I don't have a red pen.
I have one you can borrow.
Excelente. Yeah, the same person that Commissioner Ramsey referenced in their email today had some additional questions or suggestions, and I just had shared a couple of them with the manager and asked him what his thoughts were on them, and he thought they were reasonable, but one of them requires an ordinance change in terms of the hours, and so I'm just wondering if that's something that the commission would like us to, the staff to pursue on that ordinance change, because that would have to come back to us. And that's basically the earliest hour that you can put a cart out. Right now it's 7 p.m. and the person had just mentioned that, well, in winter times it's dark then, and so maybe just bumping it up to 5 p.m. and so that it's still light out, just from a public safety perspective, our residents. It just seemed reasonable that we make that accommodation. So that you can put them out at night. It may seem like a small or insignificant thing, but for some, I think it is important. And so I just figured maybe we could make that adjustment. And then they're also wondering about whether having language in a regulation ordinance specifying that the carts have to face the street, so it's easier for the garbage trucks to lift them and empty the contents of it. Some of the garbage cans say that, but not all of them do apparently, and so we were just wondering about adding that language somewhere in our rules and regulations. So also seems reasonable, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Commissioner?
Oh, I was just wondering what staff thought about that.
Yeah, for sure. The idea that we tell them to point them forward, I think that's reasonable to put in there. I think the other one's very reasonable too. Aside from, we would just need to do an ordinance change. We don't really. Our problem hasn't been people putting them out too soon. Nobody complains about that. It's really about the people not putting them away. And that's kind of why I said in the email. I said, well, yeah. I mean, the ordinance has been 7 o'clock, and I think a lot of times I put mine out when I get home from a meeting, so it'll be later tonight. But if not, I might put it out at right after work at 5 o'clock, and that has never been, I don't think, an issue for anybody, and I don't think that we're gonna be driving around trying to enforce that one, which would be pretty much impossible because we'd have to enforce it on like Tuesday afternoons or whatever on garbage day, day before garbage day. So I mean, if we want to go through the effort to do that, otherwise I think it's probably reasonable that that's not something that would be heavily enforced anyway. But we could work on fixing that in the ordinance, like as time permits. My guess is it's not a complicated fix for the attorney to put together. But for sure, turning it around and facing it the right way. And most people do, but just making it very clear for people who don't know that if the opening faces the road is fine.
And I like that with our updated policies and those regulations that we're doing it primarily to remind people of what existing policy is, because a lot of it hasn't changed. Yeah. We've tweaked it somewhat, but for the most part, it's to remind people what the policy is, and we're going to be pursuing more of an educational aspect of it, of informing. And I hear we have stickers that being put on trash cans, so it's not about being heavy-handed, but educational. And because some people may not know all the rules about it, so letting them know, and then going from there if the problems persist in certain residences. But that's good. So thank you, staff, and
Everybody pick
thank
up
you,
your
staff.
garbage. Right. Beautify the town. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Ritz-Missabega,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item G, Commissioner Ramsey.
Oh, sorry.
Where? Oh, it is right on the paper in front of me. Thank you, Commissioner Rinsimus-Ibinga.
It's on the screen now.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah. I have all the support I could possibly need, and I want to thank the team for making this possible. I would like to approve the motion to allocate $5 million in ARP stimulus funds to the info housing program and authorize the city manager to broadly release the RFQ and identify qualified developers for the program.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by, I believe, Commissioner Johnson, to allocate $5 million in ARP stimulus funds to the infill housing program and authorize the city manager to broadly release the RFQ and identify qualified developers for the program. Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes, Frank, I want to thank you for bringing this with us tonight and having the great conversation that we were able to have around it and the opportunities that were there. And I wanted you to have the opportunity to go over them tonight and then to identify any changes that were made based on the recommendations that we had last night with, the short 20-minute turnaround time you had.
Yes.
Or a promise to implement some of those changes, even though you couldn't get them done before us this evening.
Yeah, sure. So one thing I'll point out is as we went through and we've talked about what kinds of things we could spend, that would be important to the community to spend ARP dollars on. Housing was one of the priorities, whether it was a top one or it was at least in the top 5 or so priorities of the community. But it is absolutely a need that we've identified and has been identified all over the state of Michigan, really all over the country, in terms of reasonably affordable housing and access to housing for the people that live in our communities. And so we thought it was a great opportunity to make this one of our first investments because it's an investment that will return to us. So whether we want to subsidize is a naughty word, but whether we want to help folks afford these more or less, we can recoup more or less of the $5 million as we build and sell these homes. Very similar to the way that we're doing our other infill housing program through the scatter site brownfield. And so the idea is we would use about $5 million of ARP money, and we would use that to attract developers who would also make a similar investment. So presumably our $5 million would generate $5 additional million of investment. And then our commitment would essentially be making sure that between their investment and our investment, their risk level is reduced in terms of if we decide to build, say, on my street and the houses aren't appraising at a level they would need to break even, or we decide to sell to an income qualified resident that we want to help put into an affordable home, we would carry the burden of that subsidy or of that assistance to that home buyer, and the developer would be made whole. And the goal here is to get more developers interested in Muskegon, investing in Muskegon, and this is kind of a baby step into that. And we've watched our different infill programs do that. How they've progressed to the point where we are now seeing a little bit of actual custom home building happening in our core city. We're not seeing a lot of spec building yet, which this would be, but it's a next step to get us towards having a more robust opportunity for spec building. I would say that if there's interest in seeing more or less dollars invested in this, my recommendation would be to take that as a separate conversation. Don't mix this in with down payment assistance programs and stuff like that. That can be a different conversation that probably has a whole lot of merit. But this is really about building more housing, because one thing that we know is the best way to stabilize the housing values is to make sure there's plenty to go around for everybody. So we're not having bidding wars on houses that just a couple years ago people didn't want.
Yeah.
You know, so the goal is to help kind of defray some of that's going on right now, and at the same time, beat some of the other suburban communities that had otherwise been benefiting from developers' interest over the last 20 years, but beat some of them to the punch and make sure that we have a robust program that's providing housing and that are grabbing the attention of home buyers that are looking to relocate within or to West Michigan and just be on the front lines of that.
Anything else, commissioners, here? I know we had very robust discussion. Commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been a top priority for the commission for a long time. And housing in the community has, as the city manager explained last night, we used to have 55,000 residents in the city, and now we have 37,000. We have less housing than we had before. We want to rebuild that. We are a strong city, and I've been very impressed with the ability that the city has put forth over the last number of years to actually make that happen. I think a lot of people have talked about it in communities all across the country. Hot markets, cold markets, whatever. But Muskegon's really actually got something done, and we've gotten it done at all spectrums, which I think is something that we should be extremely proud of, and which this continues. I think we have a long way to go on this front. Like I said, all we need to do is talk about the number of vacant lots and the population change. So I think that this is a great opportunity to move forward. I think this is the kind of generational investment that we need to keep moving the needle on that important metric. And so I think I'm supportive of this.
Thank you. Mr. German?
Yes. And thanks, Commissioner Ramsey, for bringing this topic up. Also, and our City Manager Peterson mentioned about affordable housing, and that's been one of my major concerns when we talk about these infill housing programs. And what I hear from my constituents, residents in the city of Muskegon, when they say affordable, you're looking at the formula that that is based on, it's not affordable to some residents. If you're using, and I think a gentleman brought this up last week, using the AMI, when you do it county-wise, you're going to get a different result than you would city-wise. I mean, because the area median income is somewhat different due to the demographics here. So when we do this, what type of formula are we basing this on? Are we looking at citywide or countywide?
So the number that's available through MISHDA is a county number, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's the number that's available to us. And that's the number that we're recommending that we use, is essentially the one that the state's housing department has identified from a medium income standpoint here in Muskegon County. And that is the one that we're recommending to use. That's one we used in our pilot program, and it's the one that we're proposing to use here.
Now, if we really want to make this affordable to people who are not as well off as someone that meets that criteria for a countywide AMI or formula, does the city has that discretion to say, hey, okay, let's use this formula and have developers somewhat adjust? I mean, and I'm just trying to get an understanding here because I'm addressing the needs and what the citizens are.
I would say
concerns.
Yeah, I would say it would come down to this commission right here, and you see that when we bring the sales agreements to you one at a time,
Mm-hmm.
as we've built other houses before, and if we're going to make that commitment that you're saying, you would expect that the housing price to build is going to be the housing price to build, right? So we'll use a $200,000 number. At some point, there's a subsidy level that people will start to question if it makes sense for us to subsidize at that level. So if, for example, the goal is to get people in there that make 20% of the area, build a brand new home and put somebody in there that makes 20% of the area median income, that might mean that we have to subsidize $120,000 of that home, and it still might not be affordable to those particular buyers. The one thing to remember is we do have programs that are very specific for those buyers that are below that number, that are maybe closer to the poverty level, that are well below the area median income. You see the projects going up right now. You see the Berkshire downtown, and you see the 1021 project, which is for workforce individuals, not for elderly. You see them kind of all over the community. I think when Jake did his study a year and a half ago, there was something like 1,000, right? 1,000 units that were very specifically dedicated to people that are in that demographic that you're talking about, and many of those are 60% and below of the area median income. So they're quite a bit. They're way more within that earning demographic that you're talking about. One other thing that we talked about yesterday that I made sure I pointed out, and I want to make sure I point out again here, is we did hear that there will be $100 million invested from the state's ARP allocation specifically for low-income housing, and those are the types of investments that we can expect to see happening here in Muskegon, because we're seeing them. There was just an announcement of millions of dollars that will go into Hartford Terrace, right, through a program similar to that. We have the 3 projects that are under construction right now, or recently under construction. So we do have those. We do have those particular units going. But we do. One of the things that was the big need that we noticed here, that has hurt our demographics from an earning standpoint, is we don't have housing available for the people in that middle range. The people that have a job, that have 2 incomes with a job, they had been choosing for decades to not live here, and that does play into that lower than the countywide demographic. Because if you look at our income tax numbers, our local income tax numbers, Ken will be happy to share them with you. There are a lot of incomes that are earned here in the city, but they just migrate out into the suburbs when it comes to people that have a little bit of a higher income, medium still, 80 to 125%. They're choosing to invest their dollars in Norton Shores or Fruitport or Muskegon Township or North Muskegon, in part because we didn't have housing available that was what their expectation was, right? Newer housing, attached garage. You can think of the things that buyers have kind of started to want over the last 25 or 30 years that we just don't have available. And so that's also part of what we're trying to accomplish here. But I will point out that one thing that I think Commissioner Johnson brought up was the idea of making these more affordable by making the operating costs of them less. And so there are a number of changes that I made in here. They're in red, and they're really all about making sure that we make the upfront investments to make sure that they're energy efficient, to make sure that the gas bill is not going to be $400 a month. So we talk about things like minimum efficiency levels required, minimum insulation levels required in the attic and in the walls, and the types of windows, and all those sorts of things to make it a little more affordable. And then to deal with the issue with the grass and the landscaping, we did make a condition on here that they could propose a landscaped yard that has low maintenance native plants and landscape materials, if we want to make it even more affordable for somebody and less maintenance for somebody to have a single family home, and not have a yard to take care of. So I think we're doing all those things. I think it's going to be really hard to say, let's figure out how to build houses and get a family in there that's sustainable, in a sustainable way that is significantly below the area median income, because it will be difficult. And we do have houses now that people are buying for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and they still struggle to have the dollars to maintain that house with that particular mortgage. So I think it'd be a bit of a stretch to try to make single family homes to get them down to that particular level. But there are things like I said, like the housing developments that we have, particularly the mixed use buildings that you see going up, and the different projects that are like that are designed, and they're funded by the federal government, they're funded by the state government, and they're subsidized so much so that people can afford to live in them even with little or no income.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that answers, some of the questions, but yeah, and that main dream is for people to own their own homes,
Yes.
for, generational wealth and to, leverage, things to gain, wealth also. And we know ownership of housing does do that. So I would like to see something, in the future along that way where we can just actually try to accommodate those needs.
Yeah, and one other thing too that I think will help build that and maybe might help you feel comfortable if there are folks that are lower income that live in these neighborhoods now and they have a house that they bought years ago or that was a generational house. We have seen the property values go up significantly, and there could be enough equity in that house to where they could, even though they're income qualified and they're well below 80% of their area median income, they could parlay their equity into something like this, come with a down payment assistance from us, and still have it be affordable. But it won't be it won't be everybody. It'll have to be the people that have already started down that path of building generational wealth. Exactly. But then they'll have this asset to appreciate, and it'll be presumably cheaper to operate because the furnace might be newer and the windows might be newer and the insulation, may be better and the roof might be newer. And we can see them parlay their current living situation into an opportunity to upgrade, just like the housing market really is meant for people to be able to do.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Commissioners, anything else on this? Commissioner Ramsey?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer Commissioner German, because he wasn't here last night, that I spoke to something very similar, and we had a very wonderful conversation about increasing our first-time buyer program here. And so I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you and talk about what I suggested we do and how we get to look at some of those numbers and expand that program, because now these funds aren't restricted by HUD or a federal guideline that we have to meet, that there might be a way for us to help so that as we move people through the housing thank you, that it does open up some affordable housing here in town by moving people into the next level of the housing if they choose. But we can have coffee about that, because I think that there's still opportunity for many of our residents here to take advantage of this program.
I think it behooves all of us, and all of us doing either the work on the ground or at the local government level, to continue to put pressure on the gods on Olympus, whether that's in Lansing or in Washington, D.C., to become more realistic in what the reality is here out in the provinces, in each and every one of our neighborhoods. And let's get some real financial institution reform and reinvestment in the communities that they're either based in or outside of, and they move out of your downtowns, and become a community partner. But we are often at the enough said. Okay. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you to my fellow commissioners for the good dialogue last night in terms of reviewing this program, and to staff, thanks staff for addressing our questions, and also, I'm particularly grateful for our city manager for being responsive to the feedback received last night and incorporating that into the program that we see today and those updates. I'm particularly appreciative of the steps to make this program more green, more environmentally friendly, whether that's making these homes as energy efficient as possible, which also saves the homeowners money, makes it more solvent for them, and addressing the alternatives for lawns and having potential more environmentally friendly lawnscapes there, and preserving mature trees to the greatest extent possible on these sites, and also adding language with regard to local contractors, subcontractors, sourcing supplies and equipment locally, trying to keep as much of this money that's coming from us, and also being paired with private dollars, which is great that we're leveraging public dollars to get that private investment, but to keep as much money of that circulating in our local economy, so that we have that maximum benefit from that. So grateful for all of that. This and I do take to heart Commissioner German's, with regard to the AMI, because it is, 100% county AMI is significantly different from the city's AMI. Our city AMI is about 70% of what the county AMI is. So I do take that to heart, and I see that as, being an area that, not only would we be able to identify other resources to come to bear to support people at the lower AMI within our city, but there's also opportunity for us to, tweak this program as going forward. This isn't set in stone, and this isn't the perfect iteration of this program. This is something that's going to be a long-term transformational program that we're going to have many years to come, and we can have opportunities to tweak it and improve it. This is building off of what we've had with Midtown 9, our initial Midtown 9, and then Midtown Phase 2, where we built these homes, and we've tweaked our building program as we went along the way, including as we saw right off the bat in this one. We have every house is going to have at least one 0-step entry, as well as wider doorways on the first floor, and having a bathroom and a main floor bedroom. And so that's something that we'd heard in years past when we were doing these buildings for the Midtown. And so I'm really happy to see that incorporated right off the bat in this. So we'll have opportunities to continue working on it, and improving it, and making it better and better and better for the benefit of our community. But this is a great investment of our one-time dollars that we're getting under very unusual circumstances. None of us want to have these circumstances happen again in terms of a global pandemic, but we are, I think, very prudently using these dollars, these lump sum one-time dollars, to make an investment that's going to reap dividends in many ways for many years to come, in terms of filling vacant lots, providing more housing for existing and new residents in our community, and improving the vibrancy and safety of our neighborhoods in the process, and strengthening our city's fiscal solvency also with new city income tax, new property tax streams. And so that's going to support our existing infrastructure, which, as was noted previously, was built out for a population that was at least 10,000 greater than it is today. So helping to support our existing infrastructure, but also helping us to invest in new infrastructure and programming. So this is a great investment, and I think our city manager, as well as all of our principals in our development services division, who've worked on this to bring this forward. But I'm excited to see starting to put some foundations in and help alleviate this housing crisis. So thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. As I said, it's this community rebuilding program, because it's more than that. It's more of that than just building houses. It's bringing folks back in to become that vital fabric of what makes it worth living here. Good neighbors. We've sat too long through the years with empty lots that have done nothing but collect garbage and other problems. And now we can have kids playing on the front lawns once again. And the design of the program is fantastic in that we can potentially recoup a good portion of our outlays at each step. So it feeds itself in the years and perhaps decades ahead. So the potential longevity of it really is transformational, because we can continue to replicate this throughout the city of Muskegon and encourage the return of our greatest resource, which is human resource, the people we visit with, across the garden fence. So great job, staff. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Rizabasibiga?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Dahlgren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item H, Commissioner German.
Yes. I move to endorse the request for proposal for the 1095 3rd Street redevelopment RFP as presented.
Support. Been moved by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Rizabasibiga to endorse the request for the proposals for the 1095 3rd Street redevelopment RFP as presented. Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I see Mr. Acom up front there. Could you just kind of, enlighten the public and myself also? I did get a chance to read the article in MLive, but I wasn't here at the meeting work session yesterday. So you just kind of, go over that. I appreciate it.
Sure. Good evening to everybody. So, as many of you probably recall, we conducted a property swap with Catholic Charities of West Michigan approximately 15 months ago for them to construct some new offices and facilities near 7th and Park Street area with some vacant property in exchange for this building, which on the corner of 3rd and Muskegon has been there for nearly 100 years, was originally a furniture showroom and warehouse, and then was Panyard's components building for a long time before becoming a nonprofit office building. They are just about finished moving out, and so now is the time for us to start facilitating a future active use for that property. This request for proposals would go out, we'd be submitting it wide to some of the construction management companies that deal with a lot of upfront developers, as well as the development groups in the region that we already work with, in order to try to facilitate interested parties for ideally mixed-use redevelopment on this site. The site features not only the building, but also a large parking lot on Houston, as well as a smaller parcel that fronts Muskegon. So there's potential for not only remediation of the existing structure, but also new construction of additional buildings.
Okay. So far, has there been any interested parties or?
Yes. So there are, at this point, 3 private sector entities that range 2 locally here in Muskegon and 1 in the Grand Rapids area that have effectively been waiting for this request for proposals. Pretty consistently asking us, when are we doing this? When are we doing this? But we've wanted to give ample time for the nonprofit agency to move out, and they still have quite a bit of stuff in there, and they're kind of working their way towards transitioning all their office materials to their new site.
Okay. And they're talking about commercial space, retail, some housing.
Sure. Ideally, what I'd like to see, and I think what would fit the zoning and the community planning documents we have best, would be mixed use. So you'd want an activated street front, potentially with retail or office space on that first floor, restaurant space, with some housing amenities up top. You will notice in this document, though, I did soften that language from some of our previous requests for proposals to accommodate proposals that would feature single commercial use or single residential use, because the zoning does allow for that for the form-based Main Street zoning. The other thing is, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had some issues with developers having problems getting bank financing for commercial property, particularly restaurant and office space, because there is a surplus of it in the market.
Okay, thank you.
Can you scroll down to that first old picture? Or scroll back up?
Nope.
You will note the title page has the wrong photos on it. My bad. I got several emails. I will fix that before
That's
we send
what
it
it
out.
used to look like when I went to see Dr. Patterson, my pediatrician.
Yep, and
What memories.
So we have done a little bit of investigation. By investigation, I mean me taking a hammer from my truck and banging on the stucco a little bit, and that brick is under there somewhere, as are the original windows.
Really? I was just going to ask that. Thank you.
Yep, so I don't know what condition they're in, but there is original plate windows, and then there's original brick facade. And this building has been extensively carved up.
Yes.
I've been through it well over a half dozen times at this point, and I still get lost in it, especially on the second floor and in the basement. The beauty of that is none of those walls that exist in there appear to be load bearing, so this could be a really nice, clean gut job and new floor plan.
Thank you. Anything else for Mr. Ekholm? Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Director Ekholm. Thank you, staff, for moving the development of this property forward via the RFP process, making it available for multiple developers to submit bids and ideas and figure out let the best rise to the top in terms of staff selection, which I agree with you would be that mixed use development with residential and activated commercial space on the first floor to help bridge our downtown to our midtown, because we do have that gap. Basically from Clay to essentially to Houston, Muskegon and Houston, with parks or churches or other institutions. that it's important to bridge that to bring the traffic of people from our core downtown into Midtown. There's people that oftentimes they're downtown, they're not aware of Midtown, and so that's and some of those businesses in Midtown aren't having that same benefit or residual effect of the activities happening in our core downtown. So it's important to bridge. Which brings me to my one misgiving or concern in this RFP is that the potential for it to be residential only, because that undermines what our ultimate intention with that urban development and that bridge between the two is. And it's exciting that we hack the admin building being redeveloped with potential mixed use and activated space on the ground, so we can have that help that bridge as well. But I just would be concerned about this property being residential only. I realize that as you're doing your selection, or the committee is doing the selection, that's probably going to be your last choice. But it's not going to hold me up from some supporting this. But I think we have shared perspectives on that resident only option being the last choice.
Yeah, I'd define it as the difference between like an A+ and a B+. I think there's a lot of nice design elements in the form-based code Main Street section, and it goes into quite a bit of detail. It's available on our city's website, that encourages certain design criteria that really promote street activation, even in a residential ground floor unit. That made me a little more comfortable, familiarizing myself with that zoning designation, and looking at some of the nice graphics that the planning department has put together in years past when we initiated form-based code. But I agree, ideally we'd like to have a public-facing commercial entity on that front floor. I also am optimistic that there's more than one way to develop that site given the blank space that's there. Because it is form-based code, we have parking maximums rather than parking minimums, and there's a very sizable parking lot on Houston, which tells me that paved parking area on the other side of the alley that fronts Muskegon really should be a building. And so I think there's a lot of potential that even if the design criteria calls for one of those buildings to be all residential, there still should be room for commercial on one of those outlots. So that's what I'm hoping to find from developers, and that seems to be the interest from the three plus minus that are kind of kicking ideas around. We've had a couple of them walk through the building twice or two or three times now, and they seem to be interested in mixed use.
Okay, so from your perspective or from your understanding is if we do have a residential only, it may very well be on Houston behind these other two. It wouldn't necessarily be on 3rd Street, but you're keeping it open and flexible to invite as many proposals as possible.
Exactly. I don't want the document to, disqualify folks because of financing barriers or things like that. So I'd want to at least see everything that's out there. And then maybe it's been the case where we've gotten developers in the door with an idea and they've worked directly with staff and been open-minded, and we've come out with a better product before it ever gets to the commission. So, and that would probably be what we would attempt to do in that case. Even if it meant, finding them a local financer that would finance some commercial. We would try to create those relationships.
Yeah. Thanks for the continued great work.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else, commissioners? Roll call,
And
please.
I suppose congratulations in order for our new development services director.
Oh, thank you.
While you're up here.
Thank you. For a second, I was like, for what? I haven't really had time to take a breath.
Just take the bow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you for whatever that was. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Eckel. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gallren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Sibia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That takes us to new business. Item A, pedicab ordinance. May we have these read out, please?
City Commission is being asked to consider an ordinance to allow and regulate pedicabs. City Commission is also being asked to consider an amendment to allow consumption of possession of alcoholic liquors, parks and playgrounds while participating in a pedicab. Recommended motion to adopt a new ordinance allowing and regulating pedicabs and to amend Chapter 58, Article 1 of the City Code of Ordinances to allow consumption or possession of alcoholic liquors in parks and playgrounds while participating in a pedicab.
So this was discussed earlier with the comment from Ms. Sitzer. So I'm not sure if we should deal with this now and make a motion, or if it's at the point where it needs to be discussed, not in this meeting, to figure out what should be presented.
Is Chief Lewis not here? He must have already.
I know he had it looked like he had a long conversation with the applicant, but
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that too. In the hall there, but what was the question?
About the motorized.
You were suggesting some changes to the language, so it sounded like the attorney said you could work that out, but I wasn't sure if that was going to take place now or after this meeting.
So Dan's question is, can we go ahead and pass this now, but then have you do adjustments afterwards, or should we hold off until you've talked and spoken with the
with Director Lewis?
Right.
Either one would be acceptable. I don't have a preference one way or the other.
Okay, so we could move it forward
as is.
And
if there's a need for changes, we'll be back with an amendment in whatever time period.
Okay. And I presume the issue is after people get off of it, there's probably a motor on that thing so we can actually transport it where it needs to go.
Right.
And you're saying, and so we just want to make sure that's going to be the issue, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's what the.
Okay.
So as long as we can accommodate for that.
I think as long as it's clear, we'll be fine. But I'm not 100% we're all clear. So
I'm not exactly clear. On what
the suggestion to change the language to add some sort of motor is, I think, needs to be understood by everybody. So
we'll be deleting the motor. Right now, the ordinance.
Yeah.
The concern is the essence that a pedicab.
The definition of a pedicab
is a non-motorized passenger vehicle. Is one of the things included.
Okay.
I don't know what Director Lewis's comments were, and whether it picks up from his interpretation whether there's a problem with with that, or whether that's just one more category of things that might be included. If comfortable,
tell us what Jeff told him.
Yeah. Sure, that's fine.
Director Lewis, what did he share with you?
Well, he had mentioned that basically with it being a new business, so you can't necessarily write the Bible in your first hack at it. So with that being said, it's not going to be 100% perfect from the get-go, being there's so many ambiguities with this type of business. Is it a vehicle? Is it a bike? Is it a commercial quadricycle? Present state. He had mentioned basically that it would, barring that it gets passed and everything else, that it would still be allowed to be amended in the future. And this first period of post approval would be serve as kind of a feedback building time frame. So through the winter it can get revised as needed. So that's
so that would suggest to me that Director Lewis's inclination is to adopt it tonight. We will continue to review it and its operation and be back probably tweaking at some point in the future. I mean, there's no disagreement. Our office knows it. The staff knows it. This thing was brought on very quickly. We looked very quickly at. We knew Grand Rapids had a comparable ordinance, and took most of this ordinance from Grand Rapids experience. Whether that fits with Muskegon, we're going to find out.
Vice Mayor.
So, okay, I know we're talking about the motor or not, but the question still comes, we're still talking about allowing alcohol in the parks.
Should we go ahead and get a motion?
Also,
before we
right?
start getting deeper into the weeds?
Sure. Either way. Sure.
Are we okay to continue digging into this right now without a motion?
I don't mind trying to answer commissioners. The general rule is you cannot have or possess or consume alcohols in parks and playgrounds. There are certain exceptions, like Hartford Shore Marina, for instance. We are adding, if the pedicab, whatever that's called, is in one of these parks, that would likewise be accepted. An exception. So you could do it so that the pedicab can drive through McGrath Park. And there will be alcohol on it. But the people need to stay close to that pedicab if it stops. It may not stop. None of those locations, etc., have been worked out yet.
Okay.
And Commissioner Ramsey?
Yeah, so I'm going to take a stab at that, and I'm going to say that the issue with the digestible version of this is saying that you have to have an engine on the pedicab itself that is only being operated when you are moving from a specific location. It's not while people are on it. Valid? Valid. If I get on a pedicab and go through McGrath Park and I am carrying my cocktail, am I allowed to get off of my pedicab and take my cocktail all around the park and then get back on it? Or do I need to stay near said... Can my cocktail leave that party deck?
Yes.
By how many feet?
It needs to be within proximity to it, and it's only going to be that time period that is there. You're going to have to get back on that pedicab as the pedicab is leaving. Yep.
Yeah.
Observations, questions for council?
Just one thing.
Yes.
Oh, okay, now, so I guess for legal counsel also, would that be, if approved, would that be zoned throughout the city of Muskegon to allow this operation of a pedicab?
The location. The location of where the pedicabs will be traveling needs to be proposed and approved by the city. I am looking for the section that indicates who approves it.
I thought it was the city manager.
Yes. And it cannot be in a park or on public property except as the city manager may designate. So the city manager could say you can't go in McGrath Park, can't go in Smith Ryerson.
I have the chief on the phone. He said he was okay with an electrically assisted bike. It's not an actual motor, it's an electrically assisted. To help them get the bike back if people get off the bike.
So essentially, they still have to be pedaling. They just would have some assistance pedal.
Commissioner Ramsey?
It seems like there are a lot of questions about this tonight. And while we're not, I mean, no one is vehemently opposed to it, but there does seem to be enough ambiguity around it that we need to maybe have some of these things addressed on paper before we decide to move forward with this. And I'm just going to say, I think it's a great idea. You and I have talked about this many times. I think it's fun. I think it's all of these things, but I think that safety is super key. And that's safety not only for our residents, but safety for you as a business owner, because they'll get you. And so I think that this is a little too ambiguous right now, and that we should kind of punt it back for another edit.
Is that a motion to table?
Yeah.
Support. Oh, is that
Yeah.
It is motion to table. It has been moved by Commissioner Ramsey to table the issue of the pedicab ordinance, seconded by the Vice Mayor, to return to us when?
At our next meeting. As a part of my motion. I don't know.
August 25th?
I don't know if today's
24th
24th.
would be our next meeting.
Looks like 25th.
Yes, 25th.
Huh?
That's a Wednesday.
24th is a Tuesday.
24th is Tuesday.
That's the wrong
I think
calendar.
that's,
Well,
I
no.
think it's
Let the record show I'm not the only one who doesn't know the date.
24th is going to be tabled.
August 24th, 2021, right?
that was the pandemic year.
Right.
Rip that calendar up.
Nobody
Get rid of
was here.
2020 calendar.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallred,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Rinsma-Sibiga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We'll get this hammered out. Okay. Very good. Item D, please, under new business, representation for opioid litigation. I think we had it read out.
City staff is seeking authorization to enter into an agreement with Grabhorn Law Office and Haney Law Office to represent the city's interest in opioid litigation in the state of Michigan. The recommended motion is authorize the city manager to enter into the representation agreement as presented.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by Commissioner Rinsma-Sibiga, to authorize the city manager to enter into representation agreement as presented.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I'm sure everybody recognizes that there's been some litigation and class action types of things going out there regarding the, I guess, the handing out of opioids to people in the various communities. We're seeking to be more involved and have direct representation as the settlements are kind of passed out, within the state or within the communities. We want to make sure that we have a voice at the table. These folks would be our voice at the table. If you read in there, they would essentially be eligible for 30% of what we would collect. But there's already been set aside a fund specifically to pay for the attorneys. So their 30% would come out of that fund. And only would we contribute to it out of our settlement if their 30% is greater than what's available in that fund. So it seems like a fair way to get representation on the ground in the settlement discussions.
Vice Mayor?
So we would just subsidize what's missing from the fund.
Yeah,
So
if
what's
anything.
enough, then we'll just add it.
Correct. Yep. And so likelihood, the only way that we would have more than what's in that fund is if somehow our settlement was significantly larger, right? Because it's set up at about that 30% level, that settlement fund. So if for some reason we had a disproportionately higher piece of the settlement, then yeah, there's a chance that some of it would come out of our pocket from our settlement.
Commissioner Johnson?
So I imagine, I think this is prudent, so thank you for bringing this to us. So I imagine as part of their argument as to how much we should be getting out of this fund overall, they'll be reviewing and documenting the impact of the opioid crisis on our community and our citizens. So that information will be available and shared with management. That could be shared with commissioners as well. Just in terms of, so we have understanding. I mean, we all, I'm sure, have some understanding with the personal or family or friends or just knowing people in the community that have been impacted by this, but trying to get the data as well to help inform perhaps what we do with the money that we get from the settlement. I think we'd want to use, I don't know what you're envisioning using that money for, but I would imagine we'd want to use the lion's share or a significant portion of it to mitigate the effects of that opioid crisis. And so that's why I'm saying it'd be good to have that information, and I imagine staff will work on some kind of program as to how to use that money. Be forthcoming with the commission.
And we're not sure what it looks like, and that was a hard part. It was hard for us to make an argument for ourselves, just as uninformed as we happen to be. So,
okay, thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gowron?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner German? Absent. Commissioner Sibiga?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to any other business. I just wanted to bring before the commission a consideration. Late in the day, I had received a communication about an organization that has been in existence for many, many years, I think reaching back in the 1970s. And I shared this with Frank because it basically came to the manager, mayor office. And I think some of you might be familiar with the Muskegon Boxing Club. Kenny Lane started it way back in the day, and it's been serving youngsters, helping to keep them off the street for many, many years. There's been different iterations. I'm trying to remember if it's still, I think it's still operating out of
Smith Ryerson, I believe.
And I know that we've had staff, former staff involved in the programming in the past. A couple of our police staff, Officer Kolkema and Officer Trejo at one point, and they're really struggling. And I just wanted to put forth a potential ask that perhaps we could look at adjusting some park funds and perhaps aiding them at this point, especially because we know that we are dealing with a hard year and a hard summer. And this has always given these youngsters a very positive place and outlet. I think raise your fist, put down the gun.
Fist up, guns down,
right,
or something like that.
Something like that. And it was just prior to shaving and getting over here, but we were crunching some numbers. Potential allocation of about 25 grand to help get them up to snuff and proceed through the remainder of this season. I'm just bringing it forward because they've done good work. I think it's consistent with our mission within parks and the like. I don't know from our conversation if you had some additional input.
I think to clarify, the ask really is this: that they have 40-some kids that are in the program, most of which come from homes that do not have finances to contribute to it. Most of which are the age group. Some are younger, but a lot of them come from the age group that we're really trying to engage, that 18 to 21-year-old age group, and they don't have the resources to buy things like proper boxing gloves and headgear. They don't have a proper boxing ring, and so if they want to box say against a Grand Rapids club, they always have to go. They never can come home, but every time they go, it costs money. And so what they're asking they're in a city facility, would we consider helping them raise some money for boxing gloves, raise some money for boxing ring, raise some money for protective headgear, jump ropes. They say whenever they go somewhere, they're the only club that doesn't have like boxing shorts and a uniform, and so stuff to us that we might take for granted, but stuff that these kids can't go home to their mom necessarily and ask them for $200 to buy these things. And so the estimate I think that had been put together was
2,100 something.
yeah, about $21,000 to $23,000, and it would essentially buy 25 sets of boxing gloves, 25 sets of headgear, fix up the boxing rink so they can use it. It was really, in our mind, it was really simple stuff and not something that, it was something that we could amend the budget pretty easily for and keep these kids engaged pretty quickly in there. And so the mayor asked about it, and I said, well, rather than waiting 2 weeks, it might be, it seems so, if you read the email, it's a pretty passionate email, that maybe it made more sense to come right away and see if we could help as soon as possible. So that's it. And they also, I believe they have 6 boxers that won state titles this year and some of them are going on to national titles. And so they're going to these places without proper equipment, without uniforms, and they're representing Muskegon, and this is our chance to maybe help them do that a little better.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thanks, Mayor. And thanks for bringing this to us. This is a great program. It's been there for many years, and certainly serves our community. And yeah, there's a few of them that just won the state, and they're trying to get, I think, down to Texas for nationals, and they're doing fundraising separately for that as well. I think they got a GoFundMe for that. I don't think they've hit their goal. So if any of us want to kick in and help them fund that to make sure they get down there.
Absolutely.
But incidentally, I had spoken with one of our community police officers, Dan Dennis, at an event at McLaughlin Community Park a couple weeks ago, Safe Walk to the Park, and he was interested in helping to fundraise and get sponsorships for the Muskegon Boxing Club there, because he had identified the same needs as you just highlighted, Mr. Peterson. And so I had reached out to, I needed to circle back with Officer Dennis, but I'd reached out to one of our medical marijuana growers that operates in our district, and they had expressed an interest in sponsoring and supporting. So they just wanted a formal ask of some kind, like what are you looking for and how much and what's it used for. And so they said that they would be happy to support or sponsor it. So if we could reach out to your contact or whoever reached out to your office, and then we can get that over to them, and so we can spread the sponsorship or financing for it, because I think we all would like to see our cannabis operators contributing in our community as well. So, and if we can collaborate with them and that as a city, I think that'd be a great way to move forward also. Mm-hmm.
Did I see a red pen?
Yeah, I was just going to ask where out of the budget this money would come from.
So I think we would just presume that we would add it as a parks expense, an additional parks expense. We would own the, just like when we make a purchase equipment at the arena or whatever, we would make this essentially a city. They become city assets, that are kept at the parks, that are kept at Smith Ryerson, that these kids will be able to use, or young men will be able to use.
Right. So then, sans the prospect of partnership with one of our local cannabis companies, how soon could you have something to us so that we could discuss and vote?
Well, I think if there's agreement now, the idea of amending the budget and allowing for it, these purchases. It's not like we're going to go spend $25,000 or $50,000. We'll be able to, once the money's available, we can purchase boxing gloves from the appropriate place and purchase the things from the appropriate place. Okay. I don't know that there'd be a need to come back here now once it becomes a budgeted expense. It's a reasonable small maneuver on our part. But we certainly could talk to these folks and see how they can make it better.
Yeah.
My hope would be that instead of letting their money come in and make our burden smaller, we would look at raising more, because like they said they had 40 kids, but we're only talking about getting for 25. So there's opportunity there for 15 more, at least uniforms
or for their trip to
things like
Texas that. Or whatever.
Yeah,
that
or
is.
Specifically for a trip to Texas that maybe doesn't fall into our normal budgeting type of activity.
For something longer term, sustainable sponsorship for the program going, through the days and years.
I would also like to invite the leadership from the group to come and share some stories with us. I don't want to exploit these kids. I don't want them to get in here and be like, oh, nope. I just would love to know more about this program, what it's been doing and how long it's been around. I know very little. And so I think that as we continue to support very localized and neighborhood centric efforts like this happening in our beautiful community, that it's great to share that narrative. and in a way that's not exploitation, so that we can help all of us kind of move forward together, especially in opportunities like this where it's such a huge payoff.
And the like I said, and the program's been around so long, and a lot of us remember Kenny Lane.
So what motion do we need?
If you add $25,000 to contractual services in the parks budget, that would, we would take it out of there.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to add $25,000 to the contractual parts.
I support that.
For this specific cause.
It has been moved by Commissioner Ramsey, seconded by Commissioner Emery. They add $25,000 to contractual services in the parks budget. Discussion, Vice Mayor.
Yeah. So with these funds, the city will purchase the equipment as it comes, and then it'll be stored at the facility.
Correct.
So they have access to it all the time. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
It's just like at the arena. We have skates that the kids can come and use when they want to skate, and we'll have equipment that the kids can use when they come and want to.
Good.
It's a good deal.
Okay. Commissioner Emery.
I worked with Kenny's wife at Child and Family Services, and if she could be here, you would see a smile from ear to ear. Anything to help the kids and support what her husband started many years ago.
Always.
Yes.
Been a great asset to the community, great family. Anything else, commissioners? Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I'm just given that we just saw the updates for how much they're generating from beach parking. That $640,000 thus far this year. Basically, I think almost as much as we received the entirety of last year, if not just more. And we still have weeks left in the season. So I think that's a small amount to take from our beach parking revenue that would be going into our park system. And this is
great.
Good way forward. So thank you for bringing it to us.
Yeah, thank you for your consideration. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Winston-Sipiga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Are there any other items to be brought before the body under any new business, Commissioner? Commissioner Ramsey?
Yeah, I have two things, and I will make them as quick and clear as possible. They're not necessarily we don't need to discuss them, but so I wanted to address the opportunities that we saw last week around the primary election and how there were some discrepancies between our numbers and the numbers of the county, and a lot of confusion that it caused. And I don't expect an answer tonight. In fact, I don't want one, but I would really like for us to partner with the county and to put out a statement for those citizens who aren't as clued in as everyone else is, so that they have something to read, so that we're transparent about what happened. I hate the word transparent, you all know that, but just that it kind of eases everybody's mind, serves as a way to answer questions, because people have them and no one's burning down my door trying to get answers. They were just like, well, is someone going to address it? And I said, I will ask. In fact, I can ask us to address it. So if city staff could just partner with county, put together a statement about what happened and how we mitigated and navigated through the situation, and we're all winners in the end, I would totally appreciate that, and so would our neighbors.
We did do a news television. We did do radio, and we did do print. So we did do those three outlets.
Okay.
If you would like a fourth, I'm happy to put one together. But
I just want something that I can share.
Sure.
When someone says, I have a question, I can say, here.
Absolutely.
And if you have any further questions, contact the name at the bottom of the sheet.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I assured everyone, and everyone, when I say everyone, I act like 100 people have called me. It's been two. But I said that I would.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking
Yes.
for just something to share that I can hand them in print that says, this is what happened, this is what we did to fix it, and we're all better for it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ann.
And item number two?
Item number two, I would like, as early as our next commission meeting, to have an update on the gift card committee and what's going on there, what's happening, where our where our next steps are. I met with John, with council, last week over a cup of coffee, and he was gracious enough to wait for me because I was late. And so I don't want to step on anyone's toes or work outside of what my zone is, and I'm not on that committee. And so I would just really encourage for us to get an update to the bench as a whole as early as our next commission meeting on the 24th of August, so that we know exactly what's being done with those cards and we can continue to move forward with making sure that they're put to good use in our community, because there is an opportunity to do so. And I'm excited to celebrate that.
Yeah, and I know that was a topic that Commissioner Johnson had wanted on legislative affairs, but because of the schedule and everything, we haven't been able to get one going because that's my committee and I'm always gone.
Yeah,
I have been, but yes, staff will be fully prepared on the 24th to give a full report.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
What about rescheduling the Legislative Policy Committee meeting? Because that was one of 3 items that wanted to discuss the LPC.
And the other one,
should we just schedule an LPC meeting? That's where the committee came from, and we can discuss the updates from the.
And right now, it looks like that'll be September, but I know that Deputy Mike Sell was working on.
Yeah, she and I chatted about the one
of the other
on
ones
Friday.
Was getting additional information so that she had everything in total.
Mm-hmm. And the other one is just bringing the Disability Network and about
she was making
initiative that they're interested in pursuing. Brad and Diane.
Okay, so everybody's doing the homework to get it all lined up so that as much information as possible to answer any of our questions. So I know that Mr. Ekholm had indicated wanting to come before us with the gift card topic, but again, it doesn't preclude us scheduling additional sit down. But it's the damn calendar.
Who's taking? Because previously it kind of was Director Beth Lewis, who was the quasi leading or chair of that committee, and since her retirement, who is that Director Ekholm, or is that Director Grant, or I'm just wondering who is? It's Director Grant. Okay. So
it's in my office, so I'll see.
Do you all, because Director Grant and Director Ekholm were the other 2 members from staff on it, as well as Vice Mayor and myself, do you think that we need to reconvene again to finalize before we
get it by the 24th? But I mean, we could try.
We do have a strategy in place already, and there's been progress made.
Has there? Okay.
Already agreed upon, and so I'm hoping that by the 24th or thereabouts, was kind of my plan, is to be able for our strategy. It does involve some private sponsorship, dollar figures. I'm hopeful that by the 24th we will be able to.
Okay.
It should be at a legislative policy committee first, then.
But as to your, thank you. But as to the question of the legislative policy, let's see what homework is done. This week. Let's look at the calendar and put out some potential dates, if needed, depending on again with her absence right now. Want to know what information Deputy City Manager Mike Sell, has ready for us as well on some of the questions and her outreach to Disability Network. But everybody's doing their due diligence and their homework. Commissioner Ramsey?
Yeah, I don't want to add any stress to anyone, so I can be super clear about it. I would just want an update, a rough draft. Where are we in the process? We haven't heard much, and communication is key in situations like this, and so just keep it in the conversation. Let us know what's going on. If it's not final, I'm 100% okay with that. I don't expect it to be. I just want an update.
Mm-hmm. But I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to bring it up anyway because of the request for the legislative affairs. So, but we'll see what we get here, and for anything additional, we can set that date. Absolutely. Commissioners, is there anything else that needs to come before the body this evening before we move to public comment on non-agenda items? Thank you all. At this time, members of the public are invited up to make comment. We just need your name, your address. You're allotted 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jim Clark, 1553 Glen Avenue.
Okay, very good.
I am here, a matter of public safety regarding the Outer Harbor Arms. Are any of you boaters, or do you get out on boats, be out there at all? So you've got the channel out into Lake Michigan, and from the channel then you've got the outer arms where the lighthouses are. And okay, in the channel we have a no-wake zone. Everybody honors that really well. In the outer arms area, there is no wake limitation. And boaters, some of them will hit 60 miles an hour between the end of the channel and the inside of the arms, heading out to Lake Michigan. It essentially creates a tempest in a teacup. It's very hard to navigate. My wife and I moved here 2.5 years ago from Lowell because Watch Us Go works. We really like it here. We had a boat since 2015 that we keep at Terrace Point. And it's an old boat. It's a 34-foot thing, you know, but it's old and slow. But if it needs to go and we need to go, we will kick up a 4-foot wake, which is really not good for smaller vessels. And we have had moments where we have been so tossed and pummeled inside those arms that we have had to get up and start to try to move to get out of there, just for our own well-being. I mean, that boat, you know, and other people too, the same thing. And then we add to the problem. Small boats are in peril in the area. What I'm trying to propose is that the council or commission take a look at initiating a no-wake zone extension to Lake Michigan. It's a very short extension of what's already there, but we make the outer arms a safe haven for boaters of all types of boat. Small boaters could be out there, pontoon boats, and be safe. Kids aren't getting banged into the side of the boat from an unexpected wake. I think it's really important. We've got a lot of people that feel the same way. I just happen to be the first one to come up and speak our piece through the marinas. But I'd like to propose that a public hearing be had on this, which is required by the DNR. I've got the procedures here. I only brought 7 copies. I apologize. But if you may I? So that's the procedures to get the DNR to act. And there's no guarantee that they will, but they've got to have the local request by the city of Muskegon.
2 of them. 2 not. Only 7.
Yeah, some people like it.
Have any questions for me? I'll back out and wait. But
I'm probably going to turn it over to Chief Lewis.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay. So,
any advice for me?
Before you go,
he's gone.
Could you, Frank, take a pen and take one of the forms there, put your name and contact information and the like on it.
Sure.
Get it back here.
Sure.
And staff will be making contact with you.
Okay. The form is outside.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there on the wall.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because this will go from here to public safety, and contact will be made with you to see how to best move forward. Okay? Thanks. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the commission? Just need your name, your address. Before you come up, Mike, please come right on up.
Is there a way that I can take a microphone to her so she doesn't have to walk over
You know
to the
what?
podium?
We should work on that.
Are you sure?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
My name is Glenda Moore, and I live on 1236 Isabella. I just have a question, and I don't know if this is the proper time to ask the question, or I would like to know where we or I could get information for past meetings. I was here at the voting for the zoning,
Right.
and it was tabled, and I didn't hear or didn't understand how long is it tabled for? What is the procedure, and where do I find out this information?
From the clerk's office.
I can help.
County clerk?
Or the city clerk.
Well, I called the county clerk. I don't know if it was you I spoke to, but I
Okay,
couldn't
if-
get any information
It's too
until the minutes were.
Okay, if you called the county, you wouldn't have gotten any information, but if you call the city clerk, I don't.
Yeah, it's two different locations. So if you could call and ask for myself tomorrow, and I can give you the phone number, then I can help you there.
Okay. So you can give me the information that I seek.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Even though it's not been approved, the meeting minutes or whatever.
I might have to, depending where the meeting was, I might have to do some research for you, but I can certainly find out.
It was just recently. But I believe the meeting that you're speaking of 2 weeks ago, when we tabled the issue. So,
Yes.
So the minutes are probably right here.
That's what I was going to say. They're literally
find the date that the matter was tabled to.
She can have mine. Tabled indefinitely. There wasn't a particular date.
Okay, so there wasn't. That's right.
We actually have the minutes right here. Yeah, and you're right. It was tabled indefinitely, which means it doesn't have a date assigned to it.
And so that it's tabled indefinitely until it's voted on.
Which means it might never be voted on.
And then that could never be established. That,
It could be. I mean, they could bring it back at any time.
but if it's not voted on and approved, then there would not be a rehab center across the street from me. Is that correct?
Correct. If it does not come back here for approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate the information. I really do.
Sure
'cause
enough.
I have to admit, this is all new to me, but I don't know how to go about it, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. And we're always a phone call away.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Michael?
Thank you very much.
Well, you pop first, you were second. If we got any more pops, then we'll be next.
Michael Hollis, 903 Turner Avenue, Muskegon, Michigan. Well, if you didn't catch my answer on Facebook, happy birthday, Frank. I brought this up a couple weeks ago, and apparently Commissioner Sherman picked up on it, talking about the AMIs for this area. And he picked up on it. And I was told now twice that this is based on what you're getting out of the state. Tonight you brought up, Frank, about the city income tax. Why are we not using the city income taxes to set the AMI so that you actually have a true AMI for the city of Muskegon? Not the county, not the townships, but the city. Because, let's say, take me for example. I came here, I love Muskegon, I've been here 38 years. I started hauling out of Cole's Bakery, fell in love with it, and I moved here. If I had to base my income now, I could not afford to rent or buy in the city of Muskegon from the city of Muskegon, because I would be considered extreme low income. You have cut a whole bunch of people out by having these limits here. The people down here cannot afford to buy here. So you need to find a better way to set the AMI for the city of Muskegon, because that's what we are, the city of Muskegon. Not the county, not the townships. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any other members of the public that would like to make comment to the commission? Sir here, and then... Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Bridget Shepard, and for 1229 East Isabella. First off, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming together and doing something for the better good. Okay, it takes a lot to sit and listen to everybody's whining, complaining, ideas, and all the like. It's never easy, by far. And as I've sat through now 4 meetings, and have sat and sat and sat and sat, a lot of things I haven't understood, a lot of things I've grabbed some knowledge as I've went, and I'd kind of like to rehash just a couple different things. The flag thing, okay? I'm a devout Christian. I would love to say a Christian flag, but respectfully, I can wholeheartedly understand each and every one of you when you make your comment that when you raise that and who you're representing or what's understood who's being represented. And I think that's a bigger concept. The state versus religion, obviously, very huge issue. You know, that just adds conflict in a time the conflict isn't needed. No different than, and pardon me, and I do not mean to offend anybody, whether it's a POW flag, whether it's a Don't Tread on Me flag, whether it's a gay pride flag, whether it's any kind of flag, frankly, if it represents the city, then it should be the city, our state. If it represents the people, then it shouldn't be on a city pole. Kind of my thought, because the city at that point is taking on all of that conglomerate. So I congratulate each and every one of you for actually standing for that. Because I can honestly say when I first seen it, and then I heard no, I was like, are you kidding me? But I appreciate why and what you explained in that. And I don't think there's enough people that will look at the difference in the separation of why you won't have a Christian flag there, because that opens you to many more. Okay, if you put whatever one that somebody would disagree with, that causes a war, no different than any other. So that's thank you on that. Help me understand that a little bit better and look at it from different views instead of just my own. Far as the city income, individual median income versus downtown. So here's a little insight on my own behalf. After 4 years at Baker College, spending a little bit of time at Community and Compass, as well as KPEP, and as well as our loving courthouse, I've been quite enlightened by a lot. We'll just put it nicely. If you haven't been in our KPEP program and seen how that works or how it don't work, and how it fails consistently when it comes to our addiction problems and our drugs and alcohol, I invite you to look at that before you ever vote on an inpatient treatment center that is going behind my mom's house. I would ask you that. Because if it was your mom, what would you feel? That's my first thing. Second of all, it's not a concept that I don't want it in my backyard. I was very insulted one of the nights that I came. One, it was apparently how I was dressed, had a smart comment, as well as for the concept of, oh yeah, not in my backyard, you prude. Well, you know what? Let me explain something. And I don't feel that I should have to come before you and tell you everything about myself and everything about my mom. But I can honestly tell you, that woman gave up a lot of things. She's taken in more men, young boys, frankly, that call her mom than she has kids. She was a Girl Scout leader for years, which taught me, obviously, to be a Girl Scout. And I am a 14-year Girl Scout leader.
Ma'am.
Also, my time's up.
Time.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So, in general, I would ask that you really stop and think about that before you put that in someone's backyard. As for the building, quick moment to that. If you really look at your crime statistics, quite frankly, that is your biggest conglomerate of why people don't live downtown anymore. So if you're looking at something that you need to target us older people that have that in our head of what was 20 years ago. Because in our minds, that crime hasn't changed. And if you look at statistics, it hasn't changed. Properties, it's bad. So, thank you. I think you'd look at it.
Remember, only a phone call away for a cup of coffee. Sir?
David Erickson, 1347 4th Street. I came here to watch. I didn't come here to say anything. I've never done this before. Somebody in that general area mentioned the phrase church and state like it was in the Constitution. I'd like to say that it's not in the Constitution. David Barton has some interesting material that will prove it for you. Which leads me into the flag thing. I understand you don't want to offend anybody by putting up a flag. I don't want to offend anybody. God knows I'm offended a lot by some flags I've seen. But it's not my flag. The majority of the people in this county, this city, I believe, are probably Christian, either non-Christian or Christian. I don't think we have many of the Jewish faith, Muslim. I have no idea, but it's my interpretation that we have a lot more Christians than anybody else. And if you were to put up a Christian flag, I don't think too many people are going to be offended. Which brings me to another point. The Christian church is under attack. We catch a lot of flack that some of the other churches, the other religions don't get because we are Christians. It's my understanding that in the United States Navy, a Navy chaplain cannot pray in the name of Jesus. This is unheard of. We all, every day, have a chance to address that war personally. You're seeing an example of it right now. I would just soon be in that chair over there, be up here. But it was raised, and I have an opportunity to stand for the flag, for the Christian, for my God. And, so do you guys. I don't want to go in front of them one day and say, why didn't you? I'd much rather you say, hey, you did. Gentlemen, it's a war. Pick a side. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
I'm Donna Hanson, 11264 Pond Road. Montague, my husband that sent the letter. And I was leery of him sending it for exactly the way you guys responded. But we used to go to the Presbyterian Church in Muskegon. And for 4 years, I started and I ran National Day of Prayer events at that church. And I had to fight that church. But thank God for the pastor that was there who is now leaving. He opened up our doors to where any religion, National Day of Prayer is an honored day. Thanks to, was it President Truman, 1952. We had a Buddhist, we had we had 3 different religions come into our church. And some of them even went right up to where our pastor stood, turned around, faced the west, and prayed in their prayers. We did not stop them from coming in. National Day of Prayer is for everyone to pray for our country, our cities, our state, our people. Now, I did suggest to my husband not to push the Christian flag. I got a phone call because I called them earlier, and my husband has emailed them to National Day of Prayer organization. And we are pushing for them to make across the border flag, because the only flag they do for National Day of Prayer is for each year the theme that they're representing that year, or the verse. So I am pushing that agenda with National Day of Prayer, if they can just get a National Day of Prayer flag, because that would represent, United States has the freedom of religion, whatever religion. I might not agree with some of those religions, but I had to go to a city, they call it city clergy or whatever. There was a meeting once a month. I went in place of our pastor. They even asked me why I was there. We had the Rabbi Al, we had the Episcopal Church, Father Francis, and many other churches in this city. And all of them, Pastor or Rabbi Al and one other spoke up. We might not agree on our denominations. We might not agree on our religions, but we live in this community and we need to love each other in this community. We all need to be represented. Now, one thing I am offended, and I don't know if it was the mayor who said it or not. I may not no longer work in the city of Muskegon, but that's because I had to go out on a medical retirement. I paid taxes to this city for many years while I worked. I may not live in this city, but I buy stuff in this city. I help support this city.
That wasn't me.
Well, someone up there did mention because we don't live in the city of Muskegon. My daughter still works in the city of Muskegon and is paying taxes to you.
Okay. And thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that would like to make comment to the commission before we go home for dinner?
We haven't had ours either.
No, not at all. Vice Mayor?
There's nothing else. I move to adjourn.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition?
Here's the problem.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight.